Forges of Ravenshire was a Kickstarter-backed game that we were highly anticipating to arrive. So, once it did, we put it through its paces. We played a bunch two-player. I played it solo. You can see that link up above. So now it is time for me to see how it go. But before we do that, let me show you briefly how it plays. Here we are set up for a basic two-player game, not using the assistants. You are going to randomly put out the dice, one in each spot. You'll see the little highlight, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You're going to shuffle up your guild members, deal out 2 in each spot. You'll see the symbols are right there. You're going to put out titles equal to number of players plus 1. You're going to shuffle and distribute your contracts here from the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, and lay out 3 of each. Each player is going to grab their player board. Their little player marker starts on the 0 level of the reputation. They're going to grab a set of upgrade tiles for these. They're going to put their bars here for the upgrades. They get 4 coins, 1 action token. They get dealt 3 number 1-star contracts, which will keep 1 and discard 2. You're going to grab your cubes and start with 1 of each resource, and then put the other cubes in the 0 spot. You're going to get a die of each color, and then you're going to roll them. And then whoever has the highest total is going to be first player. We're just going to assume I am the first player. And then you can't see it, but off screen I have the set of player aid cards. So you're going to look at your contract, figure out one. You're going to possibly look over here and see if that matters at all. But you're going to choose one, and then these go face down under the deck. And then you are ready to begin. So in the gathering phase, you are going to be placing out a die, and then taking a die, and then running a guild. Before placing a die, you can use an action token. Before taking a die, you can use an action token. But then after you run a guild, you can use an action token. I will get into action tokens after I explain the board. So, when you place out a die, you're going to look for an available space. There's 2 spaces in each spot. They all start with 1 blocked with a die. You're going to put a die there and then resolve what the number is. So this is a 1. If I put it here, I get 2 ore and a mithril. Down here is 3 wood and a dragon scale, 2 leather and a talisman. This is only 1 charcoal. This is a steel. When you go here, you get to buy 1 of these. It doesn't matter what color die you use, you just get to buy 1 of those. The cost is listed here. And then when you buy it, it goes on your board in the color row that is depicted. And then with a 1, you also get a good of your choice. All the goods are listed on this card, and all the mystics are listed on this card. Because when you do a 4, 5, or 6, you get your choice of a mystic. So, if I put it, say, in the Darkwood Forest, I would increase my wood by 3. I would grab a dragon scale. And now, I will grab a die back, triggering its abilities yet again. So, we'll say I grab back this die here. So I'm grabbing a 6, so I get a mystic of my choice. We will grab us a talisman, and then we can buy 1 of those with the gold we have. See if we're bringing back a yellow. Might not be a bad idea to buy a yellow one. So we'll spend 1 coin. Buy this. This goes right in here. This slides down, and you flip over the next one. You then bring it back to your board and put it in the column of the same color, and then you run that column. You can do it in any order you want. In this instance, I'm going to grab another talisman, and this is, I can turn in a good to get another talisman of my choice. You're going to do this 3 times, going back and forth with your opponents. So then now they'll place out a die and take a die, and so forth and so on, until all of your dice are out there. At any time, as you're putting out dice or taking dice, you can use the market exchange. In this instance, you can spend 3 of 1 good to get 1 good, 3 mystics to get 1 mystic of your choice. You can use a talisman to adjust the die up or down by 1, either when you're putting it out or when you're taking it back. You can spend as many of these as you want. 1 does not go to 6, and 6 does not go to 1. You can spend 2 Ember Gems in order to get 2 goods of your choice or a Dragon Scale, and a Charcoal to get a coin and a good of your choice. So going back and forth, then once you have, we'll just put these on here for the example, you're going to have 3 dice on your board. You are then going to move into the production phase. In the production phase, you are going to take your dice from this side of the board and put them over on this side of the board where you'll see the die locations. You're going to put all of your dice out, and then you can choose to activate the dice, or you can build upgrades, complete contracts, and you can always still use the market exchange. I'll get to build upgrades after I explain all of these locations. No matter what number die you put here, you can run one of your guilds again. The color does not matter. Even if I put a purple one here, I could run my green if I wanted. This next one gives you 2 action tokens. This next one will give you 2 goods and an ore, a talisman, a mystic, a good and an ore, a mystic, a coin, and an ore. This is 2 action tokens. This is moving up on the reputation track. When you move up there, you unlock certain things. So in the game, if anything's ever got this grayish background, that's an instant reward. So in this instance, I would get an immediate good. These spaces, here and here, allow you to start grabbing the higher level contracts. And this just gives you 4 coins. Right here is when you put a die here, you can turn as much lumber or wood as you want into charcoal, and then you get a bonus of what's listed here. So if I put this 2 here and I turn in 2 wood, that would be 2 from that, and then 3 additional charcoal. If I do it here, I get an Ember Gem. The steel one works the same, except you combine your charcoal and your ore, those get combined, and then you will again get the bonus. So let me now get into the action tokens. Action tokens have multiple uses. During the gathering phase, when you're putting out dice and taking out dice, you can use them to take a contract. You can use them to wipe the row and then refill it, and then you need to take one of the contracts showing there. You also can always top deck when you gain a contract, or you can use it to just recruit a guild member without having to go to the guild halls. In that instance, you just turn this in, spend the money, and put it on your board. The other option is building upgrades. These upgrades have a cost on them. These are 2 action tokens and a coin for all 3 of these. These are an action token and just 1 coin. When you put these in, your production, your bonus, gets better on both of those. When you upgrade your market exchange, you'll immediately go up 1 on the reputation track. You now only need 2 mystics to get a mystic. Your talisman increases it or decreases it by 2. And then as you unlock these, you unlock more spots for your guild members. You're doing all this, and at any point you want during the production phase, you can complete a contract by spending the resources here, and you'll get the bonuses here. After you construct it, you can choose if you want to put a finish on it. If you want to put a mithril finish, it's going to cost you 2 mithril tokens and a charcoal, in which case you will then gain a reputation, or you can do 2 ember gems and a charcoal, and this will give you 5 extra coins. So that is in addition to whatever you spend to actually make the item. After everyone is done completing contracts, doing all the resources and so forth, you are then going to prepare or do the end of season phase. So you're going to check to see if anyone has completed a title. If they have, they are going to get the bottom listed, and then you'll flip it over, and then if in future seasons people complete it, they'll get the bottom of the 3. You're going to prepare the main board. You are going to discard these bottom tiles, bring the ones down, bring those down, and replace them. Whoever has the starting player marker is going to grab all 6 dice on the board and redisperse them. like so. It's basically similar to how you did it at the beginning of the game. The season marker will move over, first player goes to the next person, and then you're ready to start the next round, whereas everyone is taking all of their dice, rolling them for new numbers. You're going to do this over 4 seasons. At the end of the 4th season, you're going to total up all of your gold, what you've collected here. You're going to get gold based on where you are on the reputation track. Each action token is worth a coin, and then you're going to attempt to try and turn in as many dragon scales with charcoal as you can to get coins, as they are endgame points. Most coins is the winner. So there you go. That is how Forges of Ravenshire plays. So we are debuting our new review system here called ITGO, I-T-G-O. So first thing we're going to start off with is inside the box. We're going to be looking at the components and all that fun stuff. If you want a very detailed look on that, go ahead and check the link up above for the what's in the box. And then if you wanted to watch it how to play again, it happens right after that what's in the box. But you can also just see what the components are. Anywho, so inside the box, for us, we were very impressed when we opened the box. It came with a really nice insert. There's a place for everything. The insert has a lid on it, so stuff doesn't get jostled when it gets turned on the side. My one wish with the insert was either on the little parts, kind of maybe doing some kind of engraving to let you know what goes where, putting a little sheet inside of it, or what, because some stuff could have gone multiple places. In fact, I actually kind of set ours up different than they suggested on the Kickstarter page, so there is some small ambiguity you can do there, and the cubes kind of just don't seem to fit anywhere really well or properly. They kind of just lay places, so just kind of tweaking that might have been just like a minor discrepancy that I have. The player boards themselves, they're nice and thick. They're double layered, so you have some, so when you're putting your dice on and putting your little guild members there, they sit in there nice. So even though they are double layered, they're even thick double layered. Like each layer has a really good thickness, so they didn't go like thin layer with a big layer on top. They made sure that they were nice and chunky and durable and would withstand many things. The dice that you use, really beautiful, nice marbled effect. They work well. You can read them nice. Then even the extra dice for the Raven and the Badger. The Badger die being the black with the white stripe is really cool. The Raven dice is so just sparkly and glittery and fantastic looking. So they really did well with the dice, seeing as they are such a focus of the game. It made sense. But I have seen games where even if the dice are the focus, they still kind of phone in the dice and give you very basic ones. They really took the time to make sure that you had beautiful dice that you'd be manipulating throughout the game. The main board itself also real thick, and I like that they did the little cutouts for the dice as opposed to just having somewhere where the dice set and could possibly get jostled or moved about. So having that one where they actually lock in there so they don't get moved around, they don't get hit. Where when you're rolling them and dropping them, you can even have fun and try and like drop it in the holes, which I've done every now and then. That's always kind of an amusement, a little added fun factor to it. So I really like the fact that there are the holes cut to hold those dice in place. So now for just a couple of small negatives I have with the stuff inside is one is the inserts that hold the talismans and the mystics, and then the one that holds the coins. Each compartment is a little bit weird shaped, and so it does take up a lot of room on the table with this already being a sprawling game. Part of me kind of wishes that was maybe redesigned more to be able to maybe have a tray for like one side of the table and a tray for the other side of the table, as opposed to just having these 4 big ones, maybe having like 8 small ones that you could disperse the resource between the two to kind of spread out on the table, as opposed to having just these big trays on there. Again, small gripe, they work well. It's just that kind of added functionality would be kind of cool to have. And the other thing is the rule book. So the rule book is great. It walks you through everything. It has great examples, but it's the size of the box, so it is kind of like this large rule book that you're trying to read and flip through, and it is a little large to maintain. I mean, it serves its function. It teaches everything. The print's large. People can read it. So it's not the usability in that regards. It's more the cumbersome nature of it. But again, small gripes, just wanting to bring them up in case that is something that people have an issue with. All right, next up we have the 2-player experience. So in this game, you can play the 2-player game 2 different ways. You can play it just straight as one player versus the other player, or you can add in the AO opponent, that whole little artificial opponent that you'll see in the solo game that I played, and you can add that in to create a third player that you're both playing against. We personally have only played it with the 2 players. I have played the AO, so I can kind of envision how it would work in a 2-player game. So I can kind of extrapolate that knowledge out of my head and kind of put it into there. For us, I mean, the game plays the same as I'm assuming if you played a 3 or 4 player. Nothing changes for a 2-player game. There's nothing blocked off. There's nothing less. There's nothing that gets altered. So if you played a 2-player game, it's just like playing the 4-player game. We found that at 2 players, it played pretty quick. And so that is something that I could see possibly slowing down with more player counts in more of the in-between turns, especially in the later seasons where you have possibly 3 or 4 things you're triggering with your engine. They're quick actions, but there could be a lot of them, so it could increase that downtime. In a 2-player game, we found there barely was any because it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if you're having to wait for around the table, I could see that being a little bit of an issue there. Another benefit with the 2-player experience is we never found like we had to fight each other to try and get those contracts. There is a limited number of each type of weapons and shields and armor in each deck, and so sometimes those titles require those. So if there is that limited number, you could find yourself fighting with other people to try and get them so you can accomplish that task. With a 2-player game, we found we never had that issue. We were each able to always just grab the thing we needed and accomplish the things. And just overall, we didn't find the 2-player experience bad at all. We were still finding it enjoyable. There was no having to run anything. There was no feeling like something was taken away because you're only playing 2-player, like you're only playing with half the deck or only half the game or so forth. So for us, this was a well-implemented 2-player experience. For the gameplay, for us, the game ran fairly smooth. It can be taught easily, especially if they are familiar with Raiders of the North Sea, of that whole putting out and get something, taking back and getting something. So as long as they're already familiar with that mechanic, this will be an easy breezy teach, because it's literally like, all right, you're going to be doing that, and then from there you're going to trigger this, and then over here you're going to use all that to fulfill this. Done. So it can be a super easy teach because the gameplay itself is not overly complicated. It's the whole managing how to optimize those mechanisms and optimize those actions is what really drives this. And in regards to that whole optimization level, this is a game that if you can't get the right tiles or you mismanage your money or something like that, it is going to feel really tight trying to get the resources. You really have to optimize those dice placements to get the right tiles down into your guild board, and then making sure that you kind of can take the dice that you're going to need to be able to trigger that stuff, or maybe figuring out your strategy of, I'm not being able to do much with green, but I'll try and trigger and get a bunch of mystics, especially the ember gems, so I can trade those in to get resources that I'm going to need to make this stuff. So really having to try and figure out that strategy and trying to optimize that as much as possible is really the key to this, so you're not feeling tight, you're not feeling hindered where you can't do anything, where you're always short on resources. Just trying to manage that level. I will say the one fiddly type of nature we got from this is sometimes when you take back a die, like taking it, adjusting your resources, then bring it down and trigger something, especially if you are buying one of those guild members, you're like bringing the die back, grabbing a resource or a mystic, buying something, putting it on your board, and then bringing it back. So just trying to make sure you maintain what dice are you taking, where is it, don't let it get mixed in with your other one, just trying to maintain your player area cleanliness to where stuff doesn't get misplaced or mismanaged. You could also bring it, put on your board. So just trying to optimize how you want to manage that die. The whole bringing back could become a little fiddly depending on how you play and what your board setups are. And then the last thing I'll say with gameplay is there is a lot to keep track of in your head as you're playing and needing to grab resources or needing to grab mystics because you're working on the contracts. Well, if they need steel, then you're kind of looking over here and seeing, all right, well, what die number do I need to take to place over here so I can produce the amount of steel I need? But then that steel, I need to make sure I have enough ore and enough charcoal to do it. So then you have to manage your wood. So trying to remember exactly what resources you need to trigger the things over here and then not overuse what you've done to make the steel to where now you don't have the wood for your contracts to fulfill, with some of them needing wood. So that is a in-depth strategic level of thinking there too, where you're going to have to maintain your resources and try and focus on what you need, and then not only that, but what numbers you need to bring back, because those numbers trigger certain things on that sideboard on your next step. Alrighty, so now we're into my overall thoughts. I really enjoy the puzzly nature of when to put dice where, which dice to take, how to really manage when you're going to maybe switch from taking those level 1 contracts to those level 2. Because the level 1 contracts don't give you a ton of coins, but they give you the action tokens. And you need the action tokens in order to get more orders, or to unlock your upgrades, or possibly to get even more guild members without having to even waste a action die to go there. So being able to know when can you do that, and maybe even get enough resources and stuff that you can use one of your die just to get action tokens in that extra or on that next step. So I really enjoy that optimization puzzle of, all right, well, I know I'm going to need the green die, and I know I'm going to need this die, so I'm going to make sure I take that and put that in here, but then let me make sure I get my engine going here. And then another thing is with that engine building, with like the purple, some of that stuff requires coins. Well, your initial starting one is you can get a coin. So you can get it where you go there, I get this coin, I'm going to turn this coin into this. So you can really start getting this cool triggering effect going down on your activations as well. So just kind of figuring out, like I said, that really cool puzzle is something I really enjoy with it. And then I want to touch on the assistants. So the assistants add a nice bit of asymmetry to the game, where each one gives you possibly a different thing at startup or a different power throughout the game. We have played with all 8 of them between the 2 of us. We played 4 games, and having 2 different assistants each game, so we made sure we played them all. And so I don't know if this is just because certain ones fit our play style more so than the other, but we found there was at least 2 that we preferred over the others because their powers seem to give you such a better boost or even a bigger advantage. Like the one that you saw if you watched my solo play is you start with everything unlocked, all of your upgrades happening. So your kiln, your forge smelter thing, all of your assistant guilds are unlocked. Your trade market is unlocked, which pushes you up on one on the reputation track and gives you a good. Well, by doing that, now that is, I believe it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 action tokens you no longer need to spend on your board that you can use to now grab more contracts or to grab more assists or guild members to put on your board, which can help you with that engine building. So the fact that you no longer have to worry about getting those action tokens for this. There's one, the Badger one, gives you an extra die during the production phase. So a lot of times when you're putting your 3 dice over, it's usually, making charcoal, making steel, and then you're probably going to be running some form of engine. Well, when you do that with the Badger die now, you can always just put him so you can get your 2 action tokens, so you don't have to worry about trying to do those smaller orders to get those action tokens or foregoing something for those action tokens. Having that 4th die being able to place out on your production board seems very important. The one that I thought was going to be cool, the Raven, that one takes a lot of managing because you want to make sure it gets put out every round. Because if it doesn't get put out every round, then you're not benefiting from its ability. So it's kind of having to manage that. So the assistants, they seem powerful. Just know they do add an extra level of strategy with some of them. So overall, how does it go? It go very good. We are giving this an 8 out of 10. We really enjoyed this one. As I said, the puzzling nature. Bri, even though she doesn't always do well, still enjoys it, still loves putting out things, collecting things, turn into things. That's like one of her favorite types of games, is the collecting and collecting and collecting and then doing stuff with it. So this one is that really cool one of, you know, you get to collect a mass bunch of things and then possibly do a bunch of cool things over here. Alrighty, so that is how I think Forges of Ravenshire go. Let me know down below if you have enjoyed this game and your thoughts on it and how you think it go. So, until next time, Forge on!